In order for us to live authentically, we must become a child. And just try to think for a sec, what do I mean by a child, right? When you're a child, you are very divine. You're a virgin, right? You're divine, you are gifted by God. A child does not have any problems at all because it was initially from God, and you, like as a baby, you get descended into earth by your mother giving birth to you, right? And then you just notice how divine a child is, right? A child would be very curious, would be very playful, would be very um, authentic, right? Because what I'm trying to tell you here is that being authentic itself, right? What is the word authentic? What does authentic mean? It means being your truest self, right? Being your true self. And we all want to be our true self, right? That's why I tell you to become a child. But a child is, immature and all that. Yeah, but a child is divine. He or she isn't affected by any worldly like stuff, any world influences, right? Any world influence. They are not influenced by world views, politics, opinions of other people, right? They don't care, right? If you take a look at a child, bro, a child will literally go into the forest alone because they are curious. Like a small baby would just pick up a snake without any fear, right? They don't have any fear of exposure. They don't have any fear of vulnerability. If they cry, they cry. If they're sad, they're sad. If they're happy, they're happy, right? They don't need to prove anything to anyone, right? This is the beauty of being a child. That's why all I preach about is going back into your inner child and tapping into being open to love, because they don't have to prove anything. Why? Because they know that, before any woundedness happen, before any trauma occurs, they know that they are loved, well, unconsciously, right? They're loved by their caregivers. They're loved by God, right? Because they're this divine, fragile thing, right? If you look at a baby, it's very fragile. They don't have to prove that they're, that they can do it. They just do, And when you live like a baby, when you live like this, the amount of opportunities you can get in life is phenomenal, right? When you don't need to prove anything, you just love what you do. You just do what you do. You just go on life with the flow without you having to be so overwhelmed by something, right? That's just how a baby is. And when it's sad, it's sad. When it's happy, it's happy. It's tapping into your truest self, right? All adults, when babies grow up, they're all false selves. We are all our false selves unconsciously. We don't know that. But now I'm giving you this because I want you to know that you are not your truest self. You are not living authentically. I just woke up today and straight away I went straight away to my phone like anyone else would. I think you also did, right? If you're watching this right now, you wake up, right, today, or if you watch this tomorrow or yesterday before I upload this video, you probably wake up and you take a look at your phone and you start scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, and whatever social media you have. Now again, I don't want you to punish yourself or hate yourself, but just notice this. When you hold your phone, when you scroll as soon as you wake up, personally, from what I've learned and experienced, is that you're trying to numb yourself. And the reason you're numbing yourself is because you are scared to overcome the challenges that you're gonna have within the day, right? You're not tired, you're not resting, right? Scrolling on TikTok or Instagram isn't resting, right? Resting is going to the gym. Resting is, being exposed by sunlight, all those like good habits, right? But I'm not going to be talking about it in this video. But what I'm saying is that you're numbing yourself because you're scared to overcome you have this fear of overcoming the challenges that you're going to have throughout the day, right? That's why you rot in your bed rot, right? Because you don't know what you're bored, right? Boredom is also something that it's something good, because it's something for you to be initiated by, right? When you're bored, and then perhaps there's going to be some kind of you get this click. Okay, I'm bored. Okay, what do I do? I'm gonna read a book, or I'm gonna make a video like I'm doing right now, right? But I do it like every single day, so I'm not bored. But I just notice myself scrolling on my phone straight away after I wake up, because when I'm doing that like action of taking my phone as soon as I wake up and scrolling on it, like I know I have to do this task throughout the day. Like I know I have to make this video, right? Upload this video. I have like scripts that I have to make. Like I know it, I have to make a course and all that. I know that I have to do that. But because I took my phone and I scroll on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, right? I felt this like belief in myself that, okay, man, like I don't think I'm able to overcome the challenge of completing this task, right? I have that fear of not being able to be capable of finishing the task. So what do? I try to numb myself with scrolling, right? And that thing, it creates this boredom as well. Now, the thing that I want you to get from my experience, and probably you too, is that you have to live in your truest self, because you numbing yourself with your phone, you numbing yourself by scrolling on TikTok as soon as you wake up, isn't the true you, right? That's not who you are. That's not who your identity is, right? If you imagine yourself waking up, not looking at your phone, going out, being curious, excited for the day, being grateful to God that you are here today, you pray as soon as you wake up, that is your true self. Just imagine that, right? Again, this is all about breaking habits, breaking addictions, yeah, but that's on the easy part. I'm just giving you clarity on how you should think about this, right? How you should think about what living authentically means. It means that you're living in your truest self, because when you're numbing yourself with, porn, with scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on social media, that's not your true self, right? And if you want to go over on the reason why you do this, is because if you look at a baby, again, they're not affected by any of the opinions that other people have, right? If they want to give love, they just give love, right? If they want to say I love you, they say I love you, right? Like they don't have this inner tension that is overwhelming them within their hearts. Their hearts is very pure and fragile and virgin, right? So the reason why you're doing this, again, is because of your childhood, right? If you think about it, who you are today is directly affected by what happened during your childhood. Because that boy, during your childhood, he is immature, right? And, well, then again, your parents, right? Your caregivers, you're emotionally dependent on them. You're emotionally dependent on your caregivers. So whatever you do, like that's why I talk about the baby is very pure and fragile before any woundedness or before any events that led up to this like false self even happened in the first place. So the reason is that when a child, right, does something, trying to get like approval from their caregivers, be it their uncle, be it their mother, father, grandpa, grandma, whoever you lived with, brother as well, right? Whatever they do to you, right? However they respond with some kind of feedback, let's say verbally or physically back to you, that's how you think you are yourself, right? You understand this? So your parents or your caregivers is literally the mirror or literally the reflection of yourself, right? If you just think of, probably in one of the cartoon movies, there's this one scene where the person, like the character, the protagonist, is looking at the reflection of themselves in like a pond, right? You get what I mean, right? Imagine that pond is your parents. Is your parents like verbal words of what you are, how you are yourself, right? Just imagine that. Now, imagine all the verbal words that your parents said to you is all negative. How would you identify yourself, right? Because you emotionally depend on them. You emotionally depend on their opinion. Well, that's back then. Now that you're more mature and you're more adult, you don't know. Sorry. Now now that you're an adult, you can separate that, their opinion is not about, all this stuff. But then again, that's why it affects who you are today. It becomes your false self. Like if your mother or your father keep on saying to you that, oh, let's say your name is Jamie. Oh, Jamie, you're so lazy. You can't even wash the dish, right? You're so lazy. You can't keep it clean. Like what are you doing? Are you know what I mean, right? Just think of any like inner critic that you have about yourself. That's who your parents said to you back then, right? And you're unconsciously living a life through this. Now that's the reason, right? And in order for you to do that is to separate your identity, in order for you to get rid of this inner critic that you have within yourself due to your parents affecting you back then, and become a child again. In order for you to have fulfilling and authentic life, you need to separate your identity back then when you're affected by in today's present identity, right? Because today, if like let's say if someone, if your mother was like very critical towards you back then when you were in your childhood, right? Be it 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, just any ages that you remember your mother being very critical to you, just like straight up criticizes you for like everything you do, right? Every minor mistake and stuff, about your look, about who you are, and all those yada yada yada, right? And then you see your partner, or you see your let's say you have a woman, or you have a wife, or you have a girlfriend, right? And your girlfriend criticizes you about just minor thing about yourself, perhaps to only joke around, right? And then you overreact because of it, right? When you overreact because of it, your inner self actually does not want to overreact, but because you are still operating from a inner boy, that you're still operating from the childhood trauma that your mom criticizes you back then, you will respond in a way that your whole body gets into this, what we call the sympathetic nervous system, right? Sympathetic mode, which is when you're at flight, fight, or freeze mode, right? Why? Because you feel threatened, right? You don't feel okay back then on how your mom criticizes you. Like let's say back then when your mom criticizes you, you try all your best to please her, right? You will do the same thing, especially to a woman, right? When she criticizes you, you will do all your best to please her. Why? Because you know that love is sort of like conditional, right? You learn from your immature boy when you were back then in your childhood. You learn that whenever you make a mistake, you have to solve it straight away, or else they won't love you, or else you won't earn love from them, right? All this woundedness and trauma, it will bring to how you live in your life today. Because I personally experienced it as well, and I'm giving you the shortcut in order for you to not experience it again, right? My partner and I, we broke up already, but whenever she criticizes me, I felt small because of it. Even if it was just a joke, or if it was just like a minor thing, I would feel small, and I would perhaps, I don't know, shut down or withdraw from that situation, or just it's hard for me to joke around with her as well. It felt like I hesitated in order for me to like understand that she's actually joking around with me, because after that I overthink about who am I, what's my identity, right? After she criticized me, whatever that joke is, I feel like that's the real me, that's my identity. But turns out, now that I'm thinking again, back then I know it's not. So one of the action steps that I want you to do is actually be present with yourself. Again, be present with yourself. And how to actually be present with yourself? Whenever you're in that situation where you feel threatened, you have to think about, okay, this is not the real me. I'm gonna respond of who I am today, of what the situation is, rather than responding from the childhood trauma that I have, right? Because whenever you're in that situation, you're sort of like replaying the childhood trauma that you have back then, right? You're replaying when your mom criticizes you, right? You know what I mean, right? So you don't want to replay that trauma again, right? It's going to be hard for you to do this, because it's still hard for me, but I know that like you're still going to replay your trauma again. You're still going to have that unconscious or subconscious replay of your trauma, your old trauma again. But then what you want to do is to actually, what I would do, this is like an action step, like a very practical step that you can do, is every time you're in that moment where you feel threatened by, like, let's say from my example, someone criticizing you, right? Just think of any other situation where you feel threatened, where you feel like where you feel small, where you feel like you're in your like 7-year-old boy again. And what you want to do is to look around, right? Look around, look at your bed, right? Look at your books. Look around, right? This is who you are in your present self today, right now, in this moment, in this split second of you conversing with someone, of you, let's say, in an argument, or you discussing something with someone, right? Don't look back, don't think about the future, don't think about the past, think about the present. When you think about the present, you're able to tap into that parasympathetic mode, which is your rest and digest mode, right? You're able to respond from who you are today as a mature adult, rather than who your inner boy self was back then, right? Again, you want to look around, you want to breathe, like that's just like an additional, right? Because when you breathe, you feel calm from that, right? You're gaining in oxygen, right, from the atmosphere, and then you're exhaling carbon dioxide. When you do that, you have more blood flow in your brain and all those scientific stuff, So every time you're in a conversation with someone and you feel threatened, please do look around first and see and actually feel the present moment, right? It can take a long time for you to actually no, it doesn't. For me, it took me a while, but it doesn't take years for me to like break from that old habit of shutting down or withdrawing from that conversation with someone, right? If you find this video valuable, right, subscribe, all those stuff, what you want to do. If you want to learn more, by the way, about healing your inner child, healing your childhood trauma, especially for God conscious guys, for believers, any religion, Christian, Catholic, Muslim, I'm personally Muslim, click the link down below, join my community, right? I want to collect a lot of guys, authentic, real brothers that are in the same path as myself, as I'm also healing, right? Join the community down below, because I'm actually creating a course on like a program on healing the inner child, healing the boy within, so you can like become the hero, right? So you can become the man, the leader that you ought to be, that you're supposed to be in this life, right? If you want to check it out, I'm still creating it, it's upcoming, but if you want to check it out, click the link down below and have a chat with me, DM me, and I'll actually personally help you. We can get into a call and we can see what struggles that you have, and what problems do you need help with. I will help you personally, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.